Welcome back to Backwoods, boys, everyone. I apologize for the slow production of videos, but we are finally back today with the field procedure video that I promised way back in my original whitetail darting episode. One of the many unexpected snags I hit through this study is the surprisingly high level of wolf predation in the area that led to a significant reduction in my original sample size and required me to head back into the bush in late winter to redeploy a few more collars. As it turns out, this wasn't actually a terrible thing because apparently I'd forgotten to video the field procedure in the first place, so having a second field season gave me the chance to do that. Today I have a very cautious, mature doe slowly working her way into the bait. Her high level of caution is what tipped me off that she's actually a non-local who's migrated into the local yarding area, making her a prime candidate for collaring. At this point, I've already loaded the dart into my Pneu-Dart projector. That faint hiss you can hear in the background is me adding the air to fire the dart, and now I need to get the barrel out of the window without spooking the doe. With the bait positioned only 15 yards away, every movement has to be made with extreme caution because she can hear even the slightest rustle. Those two additional pairs of eyes and ears nearby don't make it any easier either. The ideal placement for these darts is the center of that large muscle mass in the rump as seen from the side. The shoulder can also work in a pinch, but these darts move really slowly compared to a bullet, and there's a chance that taking a front end shot on a really wary deer could end up with her ducking under the dart. We've given her about 10 minutes, 7 minutes or so to go down, which should be plenty. And so we're just gonna see if we can find her. Hopefully she circled back this way. They have a tendency to. We got another one earlier today. She circled back and fell asleep within sight of the blinds. So it's nice when that happens. But I think she has a different dart frequency than the last one. Oh, good. Register in there, so we're gonna set off and see if we can find her and show you what we do. Pneu-Dart telemetry receiver, super simple. It just, you can adjust the frequency by push buttons at the bottom. It's got a settings, a toggle switch for far, medium distance, and near. You can adjust the tuning a little bit, and then the volume. And then that gauge there is nice for if you can't tell the difference in volume of the ping, so you can just watch that gauge. And depending on where you point, that needle adjusts. So if I face that way, it's maxing out at about the 5. If I face this way, it's maxing out at about 9. So that tells us, obviously, she's this direction. She's sleeping up through the trees there. I'm just gonna shut this off so I can have my hands free a little better. The first thing we do when we get up to her is pull this hood over her eyes. She's sleeping really soundly, but there's still potential for outside stimulation, movement, sound, things like that. to alarm her in her sleep, so this keeps her a little calmer and yeah, less stress and less chance of her waking up. Darkness tends to have a calming effect on deer and animals in general, so now that her eyes are covered, she'll be extra calm. Next step is to make sure they're laying in a way that's easy on the body, healthy for them. Her leg's a little cramped out to the side, so just tuck that in there for her. That way when she wakes up, she's got her feet under her. She doesn't risk straining something as she tries to stand up. And I have to shut this magnet, or shut this dart off with a magnet so it doesn't waste the battery. It's flashing blue. If I tap with a magnet, that shuts it off, so saves the battery, stops it from trying to ping when I don't need it to anymore. And next thing I'll do is remove that dartlet, so if she were to wake up and run, she doesn't have a dart left in her. Just requires a little nick where the dart goes in, so the barb can pop out. So it's held right there. Pop it over like this. These barbs make sure that the dart actually stays in, because it'd be horrible if you darted something and the dart falls out, because then there'd be no way to track it and no way to get the and no way to give it the reversal. So there, it's actually not even really cutting, it's more so just pulling the skin back and letting that pop through. So in the end, that hole is just the size of that little needle. Next most important step is the collar, because I need to know what habitat they're selecting for, and I can't do that with a collar. First, we have to take these magnets off, just like the magnet shuts off that dart. This magnet shuts off the collar itself so the battery doesn't drain, and I'm not getting a bunch of locations when it's sitting in the house. And this one shuts off this piece. It's a breakaway that, so after 3 years, a certain number of days, this pops off of here, the collar opens up and falls off. That way, if she hasn't been, killed by wolves or something, then the collar isn't on indefinitely. Both those magnets need to come off, otherwise those components are shut off, and we either have a deer that is not giving data, or a deer that has no way of losing its collar. It's important to try and estimate tightness properly on these. Because right now she's the skinniest she's probably ever going to be. She'll only be putting on weight from here as it goes into spring, and so we need to make sure we account for that. It's not nearly as bad as with bucks when their necks swell up. So let's see, if I put it on the tightest, that does seem to give room, but I'm going to put it on one looser for now and just give it a try there. Better safe than sorry. And a slightly loose collar is definitely better than too tight. These collars are equipped with GPS tracking as well as telemetry. So they send me one location every 4 hours via GPS. And then once the animal is dead from predation or disease, whatever kills it, I can track the collar with the telemetry system just like I track the dart. So it lets me recover it even if it's been dragged around and it isn't getting a clear signal to a satellite anymore. So I do like that. Slightly looser than it could be, and no chance of it coming off, and it rides snugly enough that it's not going to be annoying to her as she's walking around. Once the collar is attached, we move on to the actual sampling side of things. So I need samples of hair, specifically hair roots. It's got little DNA strands in the roots, and so we normally just remove those from down by the tail. You need to pull straight out. If you pull to the side, you end up missing those roots, but you can see little bulbs on the ends of those hairs. I don't know if you can see them on the camera, but those bulbs are where the DNA is. So we take a few pinches of this, and then this lets us do a variety of analyses. The most important right now is that we're going to submit this for testing for CWD resistance, genetic resistance. There's a variety of alleles that confer different levels of resistance onto animals. The next step is an earplug. We need to put an ear tag in anyway because there's drugs in the system, and since it's a huntable species, we don't want people hunting her and eating her and having this drug in their system before a certain date. Rather than just pushing the ear tag through, we take another sample. It's just a little circle of the ear, and then we put the ear tag through that hole. And this gives us a tissue, hair, and blood sample, essentially, that we can do whatever we need with. We put it in the right ear, always, on the does, because females are always right. The bucks get a tag in the left, and that way when there's no antlers and they're similar in body size, we have an idea of what sex we're looking at on cameras or in person. So just a little spin there, and there's that tissue sample. She doesn't feel anything. Again, she's completely under. I store that in a vial here. There. There's not even any blood in that, so you can see it's really minimal trauma there, and gives us a handy little sample for analyzing if for some reason, you know, the hair samples didn't work or we decided to do another analysis of any kind. Gives us that option then. Next, I take a blood blot. I can do this either from where the earplug goes or from the flank from the dart. I think I get enough here. I want to keep my fingers off of the blot paper, same reason, DNA, and as much as possible just along the edge. And if I get 3 or 4 spots, that's probably pretty good. There. So just let that dry for a couple seconds, and then into the envelope, sealed and safe for later. I'll just make a note on here right away that this is number 2020-32, and that it's a redeploy of collar 43407. That has the main samples. Next is the ear tag, which I still need to make up. Just high vis, yellow tag, sometimes blue, depending on what we have on hand, but just that so people are informed that they shouldn't be eating these animals. And we give it 1 year, which is plenty. And throw a number on there. She is 2020-32, and I'll just write the same thing on the other side. Take just regular ear tag applicators, generally used for cattle, sheep, what have you, and find where that hole is, right there. And the hole is about the exact size of the punch, so that's why it works so well. Causes no extra trauma and gives us a nice sample. In there until it clicks, and pop this off there, and she's good to go there. Gives her a little bit extra jewelry. Last few things I need to do are different measurements. First measurement I take is circumference of the neck, and we do this in centimeters since metric system is standard for science, and we're in Canada as well, and metric system is better than otherwise. 49 centimeters circumference. I'll make a note of that here. Next measurement is, it's the zoological length, which follows the contours of the body. We sometimes do inline as well, but it really isn't that important as long as we get the zoological. So around the back of the head, down the neck, between the shoulder blades, and up the back. It doesn't have to be exact, but just so we know how each deer compares to the main other deer. Tail flicker is not a bad thing. She's just doing that in her sleep. Stop that. All right, another 40 on top of 152. So that's 192 centimeters long. Chest circumference gives us, again, idea of body size, body condition, and age, since the chest gets more full with age. Right in behind the front shoulders, 109. And we measure length of the right hooves from the tip of the toenail to the base of the dew claw. So I'm just going to follow that through here, right about there to, she is 13 centimeters even. And we always do the right hooves, just as a standard procedures. That back in, get at this leg here. And 13 even again. Let me try that again. Yep, 13 even. Since she can't blink very well while she's asleep, we have artificial eye drops that we just take and add to her eye. Oh, she's got some pretty good eye gunk there. That's not from this, but I noticed that on one other doe today. So just rub that on there. And that way when she wakes up, she's not dealing with dry eyes on top of everything. I'm going to clean that gunk out. It's actually pretty nasty there. And then do the other side. Another thing that we test for is just to make sure here towards the end that her body temperature is staying standard. Some drugs tend to mess with the ability for an animal to balance their basal temperature. This drug actually works really well, but we do it just to be safe. So we do a rectal temperature, give it a little bit to register. (36.6 Celsius). That's exactly where we like to see it. Next, we take a look at her breathing, which I'm going to just estimate based on here, count to 20, multiply by 3 for breaths per minute. So 4 breaths in 20 seconds, that gives her about 12 breaths a minute. That is slower than often, but it's not alarming at all. We check her mucous membrane as a final test. This gives us an idea of, yeah, nice and pink. If it was kind of a blue-gray, that would suggest that she's not getting oxygen to her gum, through the body, because it shows up in the gums quite well. So we know she's doing well there. And then we just put in a little polysporin into the dart hole. She really doesn't need it, especially since it's winter and there's really essentially no chance of any infection. But to be on the safe side, be a little nicer to her, we give her just a little dose of this. And that's pretty well that. The last thing we do is take pictures of the teeth, so I have a reference for age, but I need to use my camera to do that, so I will get back to you when we go to wake her up. just gonna wake her up. We just need to check her body condition. You just do that by feeling spine and ribs. She is in average condition, which is actually really good for this time of year. Most of the deer are, or many of the deer are in poor condition. So if this were earlier when we were darting the first round, she would probably have been in excellent condition. There's just, you can feel the tips of the vertebrae, but overall she's in very good condition. You can feel the ribs, but that's normal. And with this winter hair, actually that's kind of a tricky one to go with, because that hair can cover even really badly showing ribs and you would just never know. So we just do that as a bit of a reference, but it's the backbone and the overall muscle mass. She's nicely rounded in the back end. There's no sunken indents on her rump. You can't see hip bones sticking out. She has no dishes behind her eyes showing that she'd be dehydrated. So overall, she's in very good condition. Hopefully she's pregnant, and well, she'd still be fairly early in the pregnancy, but it'd be nice because she seems like she'll have probably twins. For reversal, we give her a combination of 2 different drugs. They counteract different parts of the tranquilizer, because the tranquilizer itself is a combination of 3 drugs. This is the naltrexone. Regardless of how much tranquilizer she got, she gets 1 cc of naltrexone across the board. Make sure there's no air bubbles in there. And I'll just set that there until I get the next one done. This is the second half of the reversal combination, the Zaparone. She needs 4 cc's of this. I only have 3 cc needles though, so they're syringes. So I'm going to give her 2 doses and just swap the needle out to make sure things stay sterile. The nice thing with this drug, besides how fast it works, is how fast it's reversed. So it goes intramuscular, just into the large muscle mass of the rump there. There we go. Twist that off. We'll put a new needle on so that we're not contaminating the vial with her tissue. Take another 2 cc's to put that up to 4. And roughly the same spot. In. Give that a bit of a rub just to make sure it's not leaking out. Push it in a little deeper. And then she gets her naltrexone. Other side, intramuscular again, in deep, and give it a rub. Store the syringes safely by pulling the safety sleeve over so that there's no risk of jabbing yourself with a needle. And the needles and everything will go into a sharps container when we get home. And that's that. Right now we have about 5 minutes probably before she wakes up, so we're going to pack up, back off, and watch her wake up. There you have it. She's up, she's walking. She's just a little bit woozy coming out of it, but that normally passes within about 2 minutes. This really is amazing how well this drug works. Complete, total, immediate reversal. Like, there was no stumbling around trying to get feet back under her. It was when she decided to get up, she just stood up. We just hang back like this to make sure they get up in case wolves or something happen to find her while she was laying down. We do that with all of them, just to make sure that they're safe until they get up on their feet again. And that's the process. It's really easy. We get a lot of different data from this, And as long as she manages to avoid wolves, I should be getting lots of habitat selection data as I get my GPS points from her throughout the rest of the year. So thanks for joining us. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. There's lots of other videos, trapping videos, hunting videos, and biology videos as we get them made. So look around. We'll see you next time.